Well, that's a problem. Moment of truth. Oh yeah. Little bit of gunk in there. Well, I know 10-year-old me would be excited because 34-year-old me is really excited. We got ourselves a go-kart. Starting off with the obvious stuff, the frame seems to be in pretty good shape. I don't see anywhere that's overly rusty or broken or anything like that. Do have a decent dent in the front there. Somebody probably found a tree. All 4 tires look to be in decent shape. I think they're actually all holding air. This one's probably flat, but we can see what we need to do about that. Back tires look good. A little bit of rust back here on the chain and the sprocket. I don't see any brake pads on that brake. So that's a mechanical disc brake. No way that works. Let's hit the brake pedal. Oh yeah, a whole lot of nothing going on there. So that will need to be addressed. Engine looks to be a Harbor Freight 212cc, one of their Predator engines. Not sure, I don't think they've made those for all that long, so it shouldn't really be that old. Hopefully we can bring it back to life. Overall, not terrible. It's either brand new oil that's never been run. It feels pretty oily. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not confident that that's not mixed with some water. We're gonna drain that out and just put some fresh stuff in there. Everything else looks complete. I don't see anything that looks missing. Got our clutch on here. That seems to work well. I can kind of roll the cart back and forth and this just free spins for now. Let's turn it over. See how it sounds. Huh. Well, that's a problem. I know that these engines aren't particularly expensive if we do want to replace it, but let's be honest, if this engine doesn't come back to life, I'm going to put something more fun than this on here. Doesn't look particularly good. You don't typically want a rust-colored spark plug. Grab a flashlight. Definitely some rust on the piston. Let's see if it'll turn over now. No spark plug in it. Nope, that was wishful thinking. Yeah, definitely some rust on there. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get a wrench on. Ideally, there's a crank bolt. I can turn this thing over. See if we can kind of work it back and forth and free it up. So we're going to try with this little bolt on the end of the crank here by the clutch. Just kind of see if we can. Okay, I'm not going to go that direction. Try the other direction. Okay, it's moving. Let me look down the spark plug hole. Our piston is going down. Alright, that's a good sign. Oh wait. And it stops. It looks like we have movement on the kind of bottom side of the cylinder, and then it stops again. I'm wondering if maybe a valve is stuck open and the piston is coming up and contacting it. I think we're going to need to pull off this cover back here and see if we can see the actual rockers moving up and down. Alright, just as I suspected. Little push rods, 2 little valves. Nope. I can feel the valve spring there, so soft. I can push it down with my finger. So that intake valve is all the way up. Right there, the exhaust valve is all the way up. And we are still hitting something. Let's see if this gives me a little more leverage on things. Okay. The engine's supposed to be rotating this way, so I don't want to go too far in reverse. I'm not sure if that'll hurt anything. That's where we're locked there. In this direction, feels nice and smooth. And then it dead stops again. So, judging by the fact that we had so much rust on the end of our spark plug, I'm guessing some water got into the cylinder while the piston was probably 3/4 of the way through its travel, and it's just created like a little kind of layer of rust around the cylinder wall. And it's possible I could push past it using this method, but I'd really like to not break a piston ring or something like that unnecessarily. With how simple this engine is, I say we just start to tear it apart. We can pull the head off and we can just look right in the cylinder and see how bad it is. So let's pull the carburetor and the muffler off, then we'll work on the head. Muffler is just a couple of 13 mil nuts. I don't actually think I've ever pulled an engine like this apart, but they look incredibly simple. I mean, it's just a single cylinder, 2 valves, basically exactly the same as like what you'd find on a lawnmower or any other piece of yard equipment. We got 2 little springs. I don't want to forget where those go, so don't let me forget. This guy. Easy enough. I'll have to look into, there's some sort of procedure to get all these back installed properly, but we'll worry about that later. Push rod's coming with this. Exhaust push rod looks nice and straight. Are these the same length? I don't want to mix them up. Yeah, they are. Alright, both push rods look good. Nothing crazy. Valves are moving. Alright, let's pull the 4 head bolts off. See if this guy's got enough power. Yep. Moment of truth. Oh yeah. Well, there's your problem. Definitely some rust on the valves. And then, ooh, I don't want to get that down in there. Decent amount of rust on in the cylinder, I'd say. I'm going to wipe that out, making sure I don't get any down where these lifters are. We're going to run the piston all the way at the bottom. We'll check out the rest of the bore. Now let's see if we can run that piston through its full cycle. Ooh, yummy. All right. That is a lot of rust on the inside of that cylinder. Try to get you guys a nice close-up of that. So that's that little ridge that I was thinking, you know, this cylinder probably got some water in it. Luckily, the piston was pretty close to the top, so water just sat, and maybe this top, you know, I don't know, half, 3/4 of an inch, something like that, caused us a little ring of rust around here. So I believe, I gotta look through, I should have a cylinder hone that's about this right size that I typically use for motorcycle engines. So if I can remove most of that, just like spraying some, say, WD-40 in there, wiping it out, and then give the cylinder a quick hone, we might be able to bring that thing back to life without all that much work. There's a decent amount of pitting on the cylinder wall there. Yeah, just Scotch-Brite's probably not going to be enough to get that done. Let's just try it for fun. Well, maybe I was wrong. Seems to be moving pretty decent now. Not sure if it's going to have any kind of compression. Oh yeah. Still pulls a good vacuum on there. Okay. I mean, I have half a mind to throw it back together and see if we can get it to do something. I'm going to go ahead and give this top of the cylinder head here, the valves, just going to give that a good Scotch-Brite clean out as well. Basically, I'm just looking to get rid of the big chunks of rust on this, so nothing's flying around inside the engine causing us more trouble. See if I can push these valves open enough. What I'm looking for here is that we don't have a ton of rust on the seats, because that will cause some compression issues. I don't see anything. We might be lucky. To be determined though. We'll see if we end up having low compression when we go to start it. But looking pretty good. Got it all back together sans air filter. Let's see. Okay. Nice. Let's see what kind of compression we got. Looks like we got good compression. Let me get this old oil out of here before we move any further. Yeah, I'm glad we decided to let that drain. I don't know if you can see that. I'll zoom in for you. That definitely has the milky consistency of oil. That this doesn't have a ton of water in it, but it certainly had some water in it. Which, you know, isn't surprising when we find rust in the cylinder. Let's pull our fill cap out, let this thing drain. So I gotta look around here and see if I have any oil. This is probably gonna be one of those, put some oil in it, hopefully we get it fired up and let it run for a minute or two, drain it all out, and then put some oil in it again, just as a good kind of flushing operation, we'll call it. Now that we're good with oil, I want to check spark. Kind of cleaned off this spark plug. Seems like it should still be fine for us. There's really just more dust on it than anything. So we'll throw this on there. And I'll lean it up against our head. There's a little switch on the back side of the engine over here that I'm assuming is our kill switch. I don't know which way's kill and which way's run. Just try in one direction. Oh, we got spark still. Let's put the spark plug in this thing and see if it makes any noise. Back tires are off the ground, making a hideous noise. Still go choke off. Come on, baby. I think I got a little bit of a pop-up a second ago, but let's go in there, choke on. It's doing something. That's enough pops and bangs for me. Let's clean out that gas tank and get some fresh stuff in there, see if we can't really get it running. I knew this big funky syringe would come in handy one day. Close it off. Pour this into a container. That's it. Luckily there was not much in there. Try no choke. Try the fuel valve the other way. Well, that's not gone well. Gee. Yeah, it looks like this old pull cord was just a little too dry rotted and brittle for us. Yeah, so I'll probably have to run out first thing in the morning and just see if I can get a replacement cord for this. I don't think I have anything like that. So that'll be quick and easy to replace. My new parts are here. I looked it up and it was actually the exact same price just to get a whole new pull start mechanism as opposed to just getting the rope. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna install it clocked a little bit further back so I can kind of pull the cord, you know, towards the back of the go-kart as opposed to having to like try and pull it right into the back of this seat. That was a huge pain. So I'll throw that on real quick. I did also go ahead and get a brand new chain. This one is very rusty, and if a chain breaks while you're riding, I mean, it could whip and hit me in the back of the head or something, so it's worth replacing that for the couple of dollars that it costs. Also, this one has a weird like double size master link that I'll show you. Where is it at? When it goes over the sprocket, it does that. So it's like not properly sized for that sprocket on the clutch, and it like skips a little bit. And I can imagine if I was driving it and it was doing that every rotation, it would be awful. So we're gonna throw a brand new chain on it as well. But for the meantime, I'm just gonna remove that old one, get it out of the way. There's a little bowl on the bottom of this fuel valve that I wanna pull out. Okay, so I have the fuel in the right spot. We are getting flow. So I think we move on to now is I'm probably going to just pull this carburetor back off. Actually, I could probably do it right here on the engine itself. I just want to pull this bowl off the bottom and see if we have fuel in there, one, and if so, how clogged our jets might be. A little bit of gunk in there. We'll blow that out with some carb cleaner. Let's check the flow through here. Fuel on. Well, that could be our problem. Oh. Yeah, maybe our needle was stuck. So we're getting flow into the carb now. Shut the fuel off. So what I will probably do, see if I can't pull that jet out, blow it out with some carb cleaner, just give everything a good clean. We'll put it all back together, try again. I got the carburetor back on, and I am so confident that this is gonna work that, as you can probably tell, I have my fans on, I have the door open. So, fuel on, choke on. I'm gonna try it without even an extra spray of fuel. Fingers crossed. Great success. Parts came in, and here's our replacement caliper. It looks basically identical, so it should be a pretty simple swap. Unbolting the bearing hat assembly on both sides allows this axle to kind of move around freely. So I was able to slide it over and get this old caliper out of here. It has absolutely no brake pads in it. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. New one fits in there properly as far as the bracket spacing goes, but I am running into a clearance problem with this bolt on the top and bottom. So what I'm going to do, this bolt just basically holds the two pieces of the caliper together. I'm just going to pull those apart, swap them, so the head of the bolt is here and the nut is on the outside, and I think that will give us enough clearance for this thing to slide all the way in for us to be able to bolt our bearing back together. Got the new chain on. I went ahead and threw a spacer under the engine. It's still a little bit more loose than I would like, so I might throw a second one under there. It'll be good enough for a test drive. It seems to be running nice and smooth. No more binding or anything crazy like that. So we're going to test this thing out right here on the jack stands, if I can remember how to start it. Basically, I'm just testing that our accelerator pedal works, the clutch engages, and that our brake works. And then we're going to go take this thing on a proper test drive. Fuel on, choke on. Good enough for me. Let's go outside. So I'm still learning with this whole thing. Again, I've never owned a go-kart before. So what I've determined is it's not our clutch that's the problem, it's our axle ratio, our gear ratio here. So this is a 10-tooth sprocket on the top. The bottom is only an 18-tooth sprocket. That means we only have a 1.8 to 1 axle ratio here. That is crazy. That is an axle ratio for like absolute top speed, which is why we don't have enough torque, we don't have enough kind of leverage, however you want to think about it, to really get the go-kart moving, and that's why the clutch is just slipping. It just doesn't have enough help from the gear ratio. From what I've determined on a backyard go-kart, something you're just going to blast around the yard and have fun with, I don't need this thing to go any faster than, say, 15, 20 miles an hour, something like that. It's got no roll cage, it's got one disc brake, like I don't need it to go super, super fast, but I do want it to accelerate. I need to be somewhere in the 6 to 1, maybe even up to 8 to 1 ratio. So we need to find ourselves a sprocket for the axle that's got somewhere in the 60 to 80 tooth range, not 18. So let me see what I can find online. Day 108 of trying to get this old go-kart working. We got our sprocket in. So this is a 60 tooth, 40 chain, 1-inch bore. It should be basically a direct swap for what we have on there now. What I don't yet know, and we're about to find out together, is how difficult it's going to be to remove this old one. So basically this axle is just one solid bar all the way across. So I'm going to drop it out of the frame, and then we're going to pull the wheels off and see which one of these hubs is hopefully going to play ball and allow us to pull it off, because this whole thing has got a decent amount of rust on it. So fingers crossed they don't fight us too bad. So here's what we're working with. We have a little collar with a set screw here holding a bearing, I'm assuming a spacer, the rotor, another spacer, and an axle hub on that side. Then we just have one bearing over here that honestly looks like it's just kind of free floating in space, and then the axle hub on that side. So I think it might be easier to go this direction, assuming we can get that hub off. What I want to do first and foremost, I did soak these in PB Blaster yesterday in hopes that these Allen set screws aren't going to fight me too much. We're going to pull those out, see if we can get our sprocket moving freely. Then we'll move out to, I guess, this right side hub. Yeah, there's one. Just pull it all the way out. Nice, okay. Throw that around. So in theory, I'm sure it'll be rusted on, but that should be loose. Yep. Keep going until I'm gonna pull this key out. I pulled off this right side wheel, and the stud right here is very badly stripped. I'm hoping I have the right size die to run over and clean those threads up. We'll see. I want to pull this axle nut off. I'm going to use an impact, so hopefully it'll just kind of shock it, make it a little bit easier. Let's see. There she is. And then we got to see. So there is a key down in there. In theory, this should just slide off. Let me see if I can hit it with a hammer and if it moves at all. No. I'm going to spray some PB Blaster in there, and we're going to get a bigger hammer. We got movement. Nice. Awesome. So we'll be able to just kind of keep the order of operations going here. That. Got that. Okay, this bearing is going to take a little bit of... I won't bore you with all this. I'm going to keep tapping until that comes off, and then we're going to slide our sprocket all the way off and do the reverse. Everything seems to be playing nicely. I went ahead and hit the whole axle with my die grinder with like a Scotch-Brite, just to kind of take down some of the high spots and remove some of the rust buildup. That made it much easier to get these on and off. So I have this just kind of loosely in place because I want to get our spacing correct before I tighten anything down and make sure our chain alignment's good. But we're ready to throw this axle back under the frame and tighten it all back up. Well, this is it. We are ready to test. If this doesn't work, then you guys will never have seen this, because I would have just pushed this go-kart out into the yard and lit it on fire. Well, I got maybe 5 or 6 minutes worth of riding and stopped to get my GoPro and put my helmet on so that I could kind of show you guys some riding footage. Went to go start it again, and don't know if you can see the white on the inside of there, the pull start broke. This is the one we just put on. This engine is very strangely hard to turn over. It, like, at a certain point, it just gets, I don't know if it's because of the compression. I'd be really surprised if the compression was fighting back that strongly, but it like locks up and then like pulls past it, and that's why we broke the rope on the first one, and I think that's why this one broke. So I do think the inside of this engine is probably still just a little bit hurt from it sitting with water and rust and stuff on the inside of it. So I'm gonna have to call it there on this project. I've spent a couple of days longer than I thought this was gonna take. I'm beginning to understand why this thing was free. It doesn't actually turn. it just understeers everywhere you go because it's a solid axle, and with this size tire on the back, it just has too much rear traction and not enough front traction. So basically the steering wheel is kind of like a suggestion of where you want to go. So this thing was worth every bit of the $0 I paid for it. I put, you know, probably $75 or $100 worth of parts in it, but hey, it was worth it. So I'm gonna call it there for this one, guys. I appreciate you watching as always. I have a ton more motorcycle content on the R65, another project on the CB500, another Will It Run planned, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one.